Who blinks first, Brandon Aiyuk or the 49ers? We may
Oh,
have developed.
thought you meant me. I just blinked. I lost.
I'm doing a thing. Forget it. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I am Rob Stats Guerrero. He is Levin Black. What's going on, Levin?
Well, not a whole lot. Same thing that's been going on the last 3 days.
Hmm.
Refresh.
Or is it? That's the question. We're going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk, of course. We'll talk about the standoff, a possible trade, all that stuff. Plus, want to get into a little bit of the defense because I think there's a chance that 49ers defense may be a lot better than last year, which I don't really feel like we're talking about because of all the Brandon Aiyuk stuff that has been going on lately. I mean, this Aiyuk thing is crazy, Levin. We have insiders like going to war against each other, getting mad at Twitter accounts online. This is a weird situation. This is not just like a team and player standoff. There's a lot of different battles.
I mean, you even have national people saying that this is different than they can ever remember, like a different situation. Because it is like so many different conflicting reports. Done deal. Obviously, that one was very well known. But then it was not done. But then a national person came out and said, well, they're on the home stretch. It's about to be completed. And we're 2 days since then. Nothing's happened. So it's not just that like nobody knows what's going on. It's that so many, including multiple national media people, are saying completely different things like every 6 hours. Every 6 hours, a story changes.
We can't get the real story with Brandon Aiyuk. It's so frustrating to the point where I literally, before we started the show, just saw a tweet. And again, I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw it. So we're talking about it. 49ers news 24/7, who, hit or miss, but I'm throwing this out there, says, while signs point to a trade, I'm told the 49ers have reapproached Brandon Aiyuk on a contract extension per source. San Francisco is willing to up their offer slightly, but it's now up to Aiyuk to pick one. One, accept the offer. Two, play on the fifth-year option. Or three, accept a destination where the Niners are getting fair trade compensation. And I got to say, when I woke up this morning, Levin, I couldn't help but wonder. I was like, man, something doesn't smell right with this Aiyuk situation because it had been too many days where they had been supposedly talking with the Steelers for a deal not to have been done because like they work out the terms of the contract. I'm sure that doesn't take that long. The Steelers roster is what it is. They're not getting any new players that are suddenly going to entice the 49ers to accept the trade. So whatever they have offered, clearly the 49ers don't want, because if they did, the trade would be done by now. So I got to wonder, like, I don't think that, people keep saying signs point to a trade, signs point to a trade. What signs? Based on what? Because right now it feels like the Niners are not going to budge.
I got a theory, and it's only a theory, so don't take this for fact. But I got a theory that would connect and explain a lot of the conflicting reports.
All right, tinfoil hat time. Let's go.
I think the Niners gave permission for Aiyuk to talk to Steelers, among other teams. When Aiyuk agreed, I will accept that contract with you, that got interpreted as he's accepted the deal, like in terms of his contract with the Steelers. That got put out with Pretty Ricky as the deal is done. I think it had to do with that deal because that's the thing. This has multiple parts to it that could be construed as multiple deals. Then it got delayed because the Niners actually had to come to an agreement with the Steelers on a trade package. That went on for a day. They then agreed on a trade package with one key caveat. But I think when they agreed to that trade package, that's when you saw some of the local Steelers people and a few of the national people saying they're on the home stretch. The problem is that caveat was the Steelers weren't giving the players the Niners wanted. So the Niners said, we agree on that compensation, but we will only do this deal if we can use the picks you're giving to get players that we want from another team. So give us time to go find that deal. they thought the Steelers probably thought they would get it done. Like I said, just a theory, but that would explain why there's been multiple times people have said, "Oh, the deal is done, the deal is close," something along those lines, because a different aspect of it connected. And now we've had a 2-day delay because the Niners can't find any players that they want to trade for the draft picks that the Niners would be getting. Basically, they're looking for a third team,
Right.
and they're not finding the right players to be willing to pull the trigger on this.
I mean, I guess that would explain everything that's happened. I also think it's like people online are saying stuff and we're all getting into a lather about it. And the national people in their snarky way are trying to tell you like, that's not really true. Like, think about it. Like, look at it this way. If we didn't look at Pretty Ricky or anybody else online and just went by the national reports, we wouldn't be in this sort of roller coaster back and forth scenario. And I think that's what the insiders in their snarky way are trying to tell you. I saw this tweet because we're going to continue to play this game. At Blitzberg says the 49ers have asked the Steelers for 2 first-round picks for Aiyuk, according to Jim Wexell of Steel City Insider. If they're asking for 2 firsts, what they're doing is they're sabotaging the deal because they know Pittsburgh is not going to give up 2 first-round picks for that.
I saw that tweet. I took it as either complete BS. Somebody is putting something out that they know they'll get a reaction to on Twitter. Or the very first call that happened, the Niners said, well, you offer the 20th and we didn't pull we didn't do the deal prior to the draft, so now we want 2 firsts. That would be a logical starting point if that's like the very first conversation of trade getting picked back up in late July. And now that the Steelers are probably getting, I would assume the Steelers are getting kind of disgruntled by this, like, basically telling the Niners crap or get off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe the Steelers are leaking that to him to try to like, okay, it's not our fault this isn't happening. It's their fault.
Well, so one of the things I did this morning was I was like, let me just check out some Steelers fan reaction. And a lot of the Steelers fans are like, just move on. Like, we're done with this. Like, they don't even care anymore.
Well, Steelers are very, very delusional fans. They think George Pickens is better than Aiyuk.
Yeah, that's not true. By the way, we do have 49ers wide receiver news. They have signed veteran Chosen Anderson.
I thought that was a helicopter.
Used to go by Robbie Anderson. He had multiple offers. Apparently, he chose a team with an immediate need. Well, then, championship.
Yeah. Guys this is like his 6th or 7th team in the last few years. So it's the guy probably won't make the final roster. I would put it that way.
Yeah, I think they just need bodies. I mean, Debo's probably not going to play this weekend. Pearsall's hurt. Who knows if he plays this weekend? So what? Jawan Jennings, I don't know if he's going to play that much this weekend. So the Niners literally need bodies to throw out there in the first preseason game, especially at wide receiver and running back. My God, running back is like the walking wounded for San Francisco right now. Christian McCaffrey out. Elijah Mitchell out. We'll probably see some Jordan Mason. I really, really, really want to see Cody Schrader. Like, I'm super excited to actually see him on the field, and it looks like he might get some run.
Let's hope. And let's hope they don't get hurt. The Eli Mitchell part is okay. Just stop. just stop. Stop expecting this guy to stay healthy. It sucks for him. It's nothing personal to him, but the simple fact is you literally have not made it out of a training camp in 3 years without being hurt. Training camp, not even preseason, training camp.
It's very frustrating. I see another tweet from 49ers News 24/7 that I'm going to throw up here because I disagree with it. He says, Jed York has paid more guaranteed money over the past 5 years than any owner in the NFL, so no one should call him cheap. But just had to pay for Christian McCaffrey, and now Aiyuk wants money, Trent Williams wants more guaranteed money, and he has to pay Brock $250 million in a year. It's more than X's and O's, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Kawakami had a tweet about this too. Hey, Jed, that's your job. That's your only job. And oh, by the way, you are rolling in money. Yeah. And it looks like, at least right now, you just got out of having to pay a $400 million payment to the DirecTV class action lawsuit. So I don't want to talk about, throwing any flowers at Jed York's feet. That's all he has to do as an owner. And he's making money hand over fist. So let's not act like we need to throw some bake sales for Jed York.
This is the equivalent of a massive, crazy, huge Fortune 500 company saying, well, hold on, that guy there can't be promoted because we can't afford to pay him an extra $200,000 a year because look at how much we pay our 30,000 employee. You know what I mean? That's the equivalent. It's a salary cap. The costs are controlled for an NFL team. The costs are literally controlled to a level that the team is guaranteed to make money because the TV deals and the shared revenue will guarantee them profit even if they spend every dime of the salary cap. It's asinine to take this position when it comes to NFL ownership. But it does bring me to the financials because I wanted to sit down and do it. And well, life got in the way and I didn't have time to make a graphic like I wanted to. But I wanted to once and for all sit and compute. All right, what's a realistic Brock Purdy contract? How much will it cost the Niners next year on the salary cap? And then look at the salary cap, what the Niners are likely to have, the potential moves they could make to save money on the salary cap, and whether or not they can afford Aiyuk and Purdy if Purdy gets 60 million. And I'll do a little spoiler first. Yeah, they can. Shocker.
Of course they can.
But I gave Purdy 60 million a year over 5 years.
Which I don't think he's going to make that much, by the way.
I think he will. But I gave him 60 million per year with an $80 million signing bonus. Jordan Love just got 75 million signing bonus, set the record. Purdy, I would bet Purdy is going to be more concerned about setting the record for a signing bonus than the actual average per year value because he's gotten no money. So he wants money up front. So I would all but guarantee he will set the signing bonus record because he has a unique situation where he's made so little money in his career to this point. But if he does that, and then they stagger the salaries, the yearly salaries, in the manner that they have, where it's cheaper at first and then gets more expensive, he would have a salary cap hit of 36 million next year. That's 16 million for the prorated signing bonus and a 20 million actual salary. And then it goes to 35 million on the salary and then 55 million in each of the final 3 years. Pretty realistic contract. So what does that do to the Niners salary cap? Let's assume Trent Williams signs for something where his salary cap doesn't go up. Now he might get more money, but the actual salary cap hit this year shouldn't go up. For Aiyuk, I'm not changing anything for him. He plays out the $14 million deal and then next year has a salary cap hit of around 15. But if they do all that, with the amount they can roll over, they're going to have about 285 million in cap space. That's without the salary cap going up in the NFL, which it does every year. So 285 million would be what the current salary cap space is without the salary cap bump that will be coming. The top 51 currently is 282 million, but you got to add an additional 30 plus million of Purdy's salary cap hit to that. So that means if you actually look at the rollover they can get, and I know this is a lot of numbers and it's hard to do in Audible, but form. But essentially, they need to make $25 million worth of cap space to be able to fit everybody in. Well, they can save $12 million in Fred Warner just shifting his salary to a signing bonus. 10 for Kittle. They can save 10 with Debo, either doing that or trading him. They can save 20 by releasing Hargrave as opposed to June 1st. Those 4 moves right there, which are all logical, saves 52 million. Like they can have 30 plus million dollars in cap space after signing Aiyuk and Purdy. So just stop that. I hate that narrative. And I finally sat down and like, all right, I'm going to compute it so I can know the numbers once and for all. 30 million in cap space with those deals being done.
Yeah, they can clearly do it. Like the pearl clutching over the salary cap is really overblown. I think they can do it, and it'd be interesting, if that if that tweet is true, and I don't know what it is, but like, so the Niners, according to Mike Silver, hadn't approached Aiyuk since May. So now, if they go through all this rigmarole, and now they're approaching him again, now they could say, "Look, we gave you permission before the draft to go find a trade, and we couldn't work this out, and we just gave you permission now, and we found teams that we were willing to do a deal that you turned down. So we've done all we can do to try to be right by you. We're willing. Let's sit down again. We'll give you a little more money and let's end this thing. Come on now, because you've seen that we're serious about not just giving you away." And it's not the worst negotiating strategy at this point. I wouldn't have done what they did to get here, but now that they are here, it's not the worst idea in the world to try and sit down with him again and maybe boost it up by a little bit.
But there's an easy counter to that. Okay, I want to be here. The Patriots offered me $32 million per year.
Crazy.
30. I'm willing to meet you at a lower number than what I could have gotten in order to stay here. That's me giving you a team-friendly discount, $30 million, because I was offered $32 million. So you want to get this done and you want me to be here, then give me what's fair. I am asking for $2 million less than what I have been offered.
Yeah, but if you wanted 32, you could have taken it. Why didn't you take the deal? We agreed to a deal with the Patriots.
Right, you can go in circles with this argument.
Right.
But
So,
Aiyuk does have a counter to that argument, and it's that he was offered significantly more than the Niners are doing.
yeah, but once you turn that down, you lose the leverage of being able to say, hey, I could have got this because you yourself turned it down. So if the Niners offered 26, I mean, again, the number should be like 28, 29. Like it really isn't that complicated. What I would say to BA is like, look, we've just proven we're not going to trade you. You turned down those other deals. So we're done with that. Now we're not going to trade you. So you can either play this year on 14 million or you could play for this new contract or you could not play at all. But those are now your options. You choose whatever one you want. Let us know and we'll move forward. And that's what needs to happen. The 49ers need to end this. I was like, Kyle came out and he answered all those questions the other day. And that's not what he should have done. What he should have done is he should have said, we're done speculating about this. Brandon Aiyuk is incredibly valuable. We have a contract offer to him. We'd love it if he took it. If not, he's under contract and we're moving forward. That should be the public line about Brandon Aiyuk from now on. I don't know that it's going to be, but that's what it should be.
But they should have gotten to that point July 27th.
Right.
That should have been where they were at in training camp. When training camp started, they should have said, here's our final number. Accept it, play out your 5th year, or don't play at all and retire. Those are your 3 options. Because they should have had these trade negotiations prior to training camp. That's
Right.
what I don't get. I think the Niners were delusional and thought he would just cave at some point. Because Aiyuk is not Debo. Aiyuk has now started to try to pretend he's Debo. But I think the Niners know the truth, and it's pretty easy for fans to see it too. Aiyuk is not a go F yourself type
He's
person.
not a villain.
Yeah, Debo very much is, you don't like me? Go F yourself.
Scott Lacrosse Jr. says they offered 32 and he said no. So yeah, according to reports, the Patriots offered that much to Brandon Aiyuk in a contract, and Aiyuk turned down the deal because he didn't want to play for the Patriots, not because he didn't want the money. Well, I guess in part because he didn't want the money, but like really he didn't want to go to New England, which I don't blame him, by the way. But yeah, that was the offer, which is crazy because that is stunning that they offered that much, but it shows how much the Patriots wanted him, frankly.
The Patriots need some good public. They're one of those teams in that situation where, all right, let's overpay for somebody to get something to draw our fans because we're going in the post-dynasty era.
Mm-hmm.
Belichick's gone. Brady's gone. We don't have any marquee players. We're going to lose our fan base.
Al the Butcher says, stats, I've seen the Niners never offered him 26 to 28 mil. That's why he posted they don't want me. The offer was far lower, sort of makes sense. No, I don't think so. I think he wanted more than 26. I think especially when Amon-Ra got, what was it, 28, he was like, well, that's what I want now. And when the Niners offer was below that, that's why he said they don't want me. That's what I think happened. From everything I've read, that's the indication is that the Niners made the offer of 26 and they never made a new offer once the market exploded. And so that's why Brandon Aiyuk is saying, well, clearly they don't want me because they're not paying me market rate.
Any way you slice it, the Niners are not offering market rate. So whether it was he's responding, we know that the Niners give like insulting first offers. I heard you mention it, I think it was earlier this week, that, you know, the Valentine's Day massacre that Kittle had a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably came in, and I would guess that they said, well, hey, we'll give you 23.5. Here's Debo's contract. We'll match it. And it's 2 years in the future. The salary cap has gone up $15 million. And the market has changed. But I would guess their starting offer was at best the Debo contract,
Well,
which
that
is just it's such a waste of time. That's what would
would
piss me the hell off right from the start. I can't stand somebody wasting my time. Absolutely can't stand. That's why I struggle to do a podcast with you.
yeah.
But but I can't stand wasting my time. You're going to bother me with an offer that you know there's no chance in heck I'm ever going to accept. Why even offer it?
But agents know that, right? Like that, I could see why that would tick off Aiyuk, but like the agent knows this is their first offer. They know, like it shouldn't tick off the agent, and we don't have anything to make us think that the agent is ticked off. But I can see why Aiyuk is taking it personally. I totally get that. But yeah, the Niners, it should have been resolved by now, one way or the other. Scorched Earth 824 says, "Is it true that Brandon Aiyuk rejected the first offer? Why? What first offer? The 26 million? If you're talking about that, probably because he wanted more." I mean,
I wonder if he's talking like the Patriots. Yes, Aiyuk killed the Patriots deal.
yeah.
There was a trade that the Niners were willing to accept the trade compensation. The Patriots were willing to pay Aiyuk, and Aiyuk said, "I'm not going and playing there," and put the kibosh on it.
Which he put the kibosh on New England. He put the kibosh on Cleveland.
We don't know about Cleveland for sure.
From everything,
Nobody has reported that they were willing to pay him.
right? But I mean, Mayoko literally said they have a trade agreement in place with the Browns. It's up to Aiyuk.
I get you from that standpoint, but if the Browns were coming in and saying, "Hey, we'll pay 27 instead of the Niners 26," then that's the Browns saying no.
But why would they have agreed? Why would they have agreed to a deal with the Niners if they weren't willing to pay him?
Because they were hoping Aiyuk would.
Well, then they're just as stupid as the 49ers.
It's like the tire kickers in a car sales lot, right? Some people come in and they want the car, but they're not going to pay what they have to pay to get it. But they're still going to show up and say, "Well, hey, I'll give you pennies on that dollar."
Scott Lacrosse Jr. says it's crazy that Aiyuk turned down all that money from the Patriots because on the pivot, he was all about the bag, and yet he turned down the biggest bag. Yeah, clearly it's not all about money for Aiyuk. He's trying to pick his team. He wanted to go to either Washington or the Steelers, which is hilarious to me that Washington was like, no. Because he's like talked all along about how he wants to play with Jaden Daniels and how Washington is great. And the Commanders said, "Nah, we think we're fine. We'll pass," which has got to be a shot to the ego of Brandon Aiyuk a little bit. So then it's Pittsburgh. And this is the situation they're in with Pittsburgh. And I could be wrong, but I just feel like if it hasn't happened by now, is it going to what's going to change for it to happen? Unless Pittsburgh massively ups their offer, which why would they? They're not bidding against anybody else. So I just feel like, I don't know, maybe the tide is turning. If the Niners really are approaching him again about a deal, maybe there is a sign that he can get this thing done.
There's only one way the Steelers would suddenly change to get the deal done. If Pickens gets hurt, they're going to be desperate. The Steelers are a franchise that are absolutely unwilling to ever have a down year. Period. They would rather be, 9-8 and 10-7 in perpetuity than have a year where they're 3-14 and get the first pick to rebuild.
Well, Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. I keep hearing that over and over again. Enjoy 9-8, Pittsburgh. Corey Soto says Patriots offering Brandon Aiyuk 32. Okay, we're out. This is a little kid. Let's go. You want it to be valued. You want it to be the number one guy. Grow up. Look, I get it if he doesn't want to go to New England. Their quarterback situation is completely unsettled. You have no idea what their head coach situation is because Gerard Mayo is a first-year head coach. They play in a tough division. The AFC is the tougher conference. Like, I totally get why Brandon Aiyuk wouldn't want to go to New England.
I mean, people, I feel like they think players are different than real life. Put yourself in a situation that is relevant to you, but has same parameters. If I am going to my employer saying, "Hey, I want a pay raise," and I ask for 10% more, they offer 5, and they say, "Well, you can take the 5 from us," or, "Hey, there's that company where you got to move across the country to a place you have no interest in living." For me, it would be, "Hey, there's a company in North Dakota," because I have no interest in going back. that will pay you 20% more than what you wanted. Well, that's not the same situation. Money's not everything. I got to move. I got to play for an Aiyuk situation, a team that's going to be losing. For us, it might be working for a company that has a terrible reputation. You know what I mean? Like, money's not everything. If you're job hunting, you don't just accept whatever the highest pay job there is. You consider other things. Do I have to move? What is the company's culture like? What is their reputation? What are the other benefits that exist? It's not just the salary they're offering. So let's not pretend like this situation is any different than other people. There's more to it than just strict money. Even if it's the most important thing.
This is a situation where the fans are starting to turn on Brandon Aiyuk. And he really has not done a good job of managing this from the fan perspective. And the Niners know what they're doing. That's why the Niners leaked the amount of money that they offered to him at the time that they leaked it. They have run circles around him in terms of public perception. Now you've got Niners fans saying that, he's not that good anyway. He'll be worse somewhere else and all this stuff. But it's always like this in a contract year, especially now that he turned down the Patriots' money. People are even more turning against Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, there's two. You always hit a fork in the road when contract negotiations don't go well. Some people go to the right and they blame ownership because, hey, that guy has all kinds of money. Why wouldn't they just pay him? The guy deserves it. And then you have the people that go, why are these athletes so greedy? I would love to make 26 million a year, where they like create some fantasy world where that's what the situation is. That, hey, I'm a guy that makes absolutely nothing and I'm willing to be underpaid all of a sudden just because, hey, I'm broke. I would take 26 million. You're not in that situation. Aiyuk is not broke. He has money.
He should have money. Anyway, I don't know what this super chat is referring to. Look at Dale at Scorched Earth 824's comment. I don't know which comment you're talking about. Just type it in the chat and I'll throw it in there. Dale did say something that I disagree with, though. I'm tired of players that do not play out their contracts. If you want to say that, that's fine, but then you also have to be tired of teams that cut players before their contract is up, or teams that force players to take a pay cut like the 49ers did to Kyle Juszczyk. Like, if you want to have that energy, that's fine, but just have it for both sides. Let's be consistent about this.
But they're not going to. That's the thing. Like, I don't like. I understand if you're saying I want all contracts to be fully guaranteed, like the NBA. I want all contracts to be fully guaranteed and no more of this. You have no idea how long a player is going to be on the team because the team can move on or the player can refuse to play at any time. So I get that if that's your stance. That would take a massive, crazy change that it's too late. You're not going to be able to get that ever rolled back. That's a CBA thing. And for the players to ever get fully guaranteed contracts, the amount that they get for a salary cap, the percentage of revenue that they get, which determines the salary cap, the owners are going to say, okay, well then we're taking 5 million or 5% off of that, which would drop the salary cap by tens of millions. Like, you're just never getting it. The ship sailed on that years ago, like decades ago.
To be perfectly clear, you can sign a fully guaranteed contract. It's not against the rules at all. Kirk Cousins has done it multiple times. Deshaun Watson has a fully guaranteed contract. They're just all not fully guaranteed. So it's not against the rules now, and it does happen in rare circumstances. What you're talking about is like Major League Baseball, where the second you put your name on the contract, as long as you don't die, you get the money, even if you're hurt for the entire thing.
Correct. Now, I see some people saying my contracts work that way with their, I guarantee they don't. Any normal, like I have had jobs where I had to sign a contract. Guess what was in that contract? If I were to leave before a certain time period, I would have to pay them. So for instance, I just finished getting my MBA. My company paid for it. Guess what I signed? A 2-year contract. But it's a 2-year contract where I could still leave. It just states I must reimburse them for the schooling that they paid for if I leave. Which it's actually, I don't think that would be a good question. I'd have to look that up because I don't believe it's fully legal in the US for you to say, you have no ability to work anywhere else but for me in a contract. Like you have to have an out.
Not anymore. Yeah, there's no non-competes. I think that just changed recently.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here and we're waiting. And meanwhile, like the football world is moving on, right? Like that's why I said the 49ers need to move forward. They need to act like they are moving ahead because they literally are. They have a game coming up on Saturday against the Titans, excuse me. And they need to handle their business. And we don't even know who's going to play in that game. Kyle Shanahan said a lot of the starters probably won't play, or if they do play, very, very sparingly.
Well, that's because a lot of the starters are hurt.
Yeah, tell me about it. I know. So that's why, like, I think it will help the 49ers once they're actually playing like a preseason game. It'll help them kind of move on. Because right now they're just sort of stuck in this, like, oh, we're all talking about Aiyuk. Yeah, there's training camp practice every day. And like, you know, it feels like you're stuck in a time loop, sort of the same thing over and over again. But like they're gonna have a team to play. They won't just be practicing against themselves. They're going to move forward. And I understand if they're frustrated. I don't know if you saw the article from Mike Silver about how frustrated Kyle Shanahan was by the whole thing with Brandon Aiyuk. I feel like it'll help everybody in the building to actually play a real game.
That's true. I would imagine it helps distract them from the distraction. But I feel like the funny thing is the greatest amount of leverage Aiyuk can have is still to come. The moment real season games start, if Aiyuk says, I'll see you in week 11 when I'm forced to then start playing in order to have the year accrue and count and get my free agency. I feel like once games start, if the Niners are sitting there holding the bag of nothing, where they didn't get the trade, so they're not able to do anything player-wise, the roster spot, they can't go sign some big-name player because if Aiyuk does decide to report, like they can't have that salary cap situation. So they're stuck, you know what I mean, just playing without him. I feel like once games start, if Aiyuk is truly willing to sit out real games, that's when his leverage becomes the greatest.
If they struggle. But what if they start playing games and they're kicking ass? Then they're like, hey, guess what, BA? We're good. You know, it only looks good for Aiyuk if the Niners struggle. But if they're kicking the hell out of everybody. Chris Waddell, good to see you back in the chat, Chris. Appreciate the donation. Happy offseason, guys. I'm also so tired of this Aiyuk stuff. Just get something done for Christ's sake. Give me Cooper in a second, or Steelers, give me Pickens in a second. Done deal in my eyes. See, but with the Browns, I think Mary Kay Cabot, who writes for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, she's like the Browns insider. She said that the Browns can't do the deal unless Amari Cooper is part of it, whereas the Steelers don't want to trade Pickens in the deal because then it's a net zero for them. They don't get any better if they trade Pickens and get Aiyuk. I mean, maybe they get slightly better, but like it's not that much. The idea with Pittsburgh making this trade is they want their wide receivers to be Pickens and Aiyuk. That's the thing.
Yeah, and look, Pickens is a weird situational spot in terms of a player. I feel like he's with Steelers, but he has a massive head case, massive diva that's not warranted to this point. But at the same time, he does make these crazy plays, and his ceiling is as high as anybody. Like his ceiling's literally like Randy Moss. The guy is crazy athletic. The guy can make catches like Odell Beckham. He literally has the catch along the sideline from his rookie season that is arguably better than the famous Odell Beckham one.
He's got very sticky hands. He's very good at contested.
And he's like 6'4", 6'5". Like the guy is a freak. He's just a massive head case. So if you're like a team looking to acquire him, you go, well, I don't want to trade like a really good player for him because the guy's a complete massive head case. But at the same time, the Steelers go, hold on, this guy is off the charts talented. We don't want to trade him. So it's like a situation of like the value the team getting him in a trade is not going to be nearly as much as what the Steelers say his value is. Thus, he becomes essentially untradeable.
Plus, maybe Mike Tomlin is thinking, hey, let's get Brandon Aiyuk, who like is, you know, team first, head down, hard worker, blocks, like the complete opposite of a George Pickens mentally. And maybe that will help. I'm sure he, you know, maybe he wants to sort of balance that out and have the best of both worlds on his team. Another comment I want to get to Fly Johnson. This is a mess. Beginning of the end of the Shanahan era. Pearsall was a horrible pick. Should have paid BA in the spring and drafted O-line with the first 2 picks. How do we know that Pearsall was a horrible pick? Like Andre says, Pearsall is made of glass. Ricky Pearsall played 5 years in college and never missed a game. Has he been banged up in training camp? Yes. If they were playing a real game tomorrow, do we know if he would miss it? No. Like, holy crap. Can we get to the first preseason game before we're declaring people a bust? Holy hell.
I will say this, like, if Pearsall does end up being a bust and they trade Aiyuk, it's going to be tough for Shanahan to overcome that. But the counterpoint to that is you should take a lesson from the Purdy situation, from the quarterback situation. They literally moved on from Jimmy finally. They used 3 first-round picks on a number 3 pick who literally did nothing for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it worked out like roses because Purdy fell into their lap. So, like, Pearsall can be a crazy, massive bust and have either be terrible player or be like Jalen Hurd when it comes to injuries. And they trade Aiyuk, and everybody's going, oh, my God, this is terrible. And then next year they draft somebody in the 6th round who ends up being, Antonio Brown 2.0, because Antonio Brown was, if I'm not mistaken, a 6th-round pick.
5th or 6th, yeah. Knees says, I agree to an extent, but the salary cap issue isn't just Brock Aiyuk. If you do that, you also then limit the options for bringing back a combination of Lenore, Ward, Banks, Hufanga, etc. next year. Yeah, there's, like we always say, it's a Rubik's Cube. Every move you make affects every other move, and I'm sure the 49ers are calculating all that into it. When they traded Buckner, what did they say? It was, yeah, we like DeForest Buckner, but if we got rid of Buckner, then we could get the draft pick, we could get Armstead, we could re-sign Jimmy Ward, and those are all the calculations you have to make. I don't think they're going to pay Aaron Banks, frankly, so I don't think that's a consideration.
I don't think they're going to pay Hufanga either. Not with the way the safety position.
Yeah.
A lot of the youngsters have been having really good camps. If that ends up panning out in the regular season, because camp is camp.
Right.
So just make that clear. Like, yeah, the reports have been great about the safeties in camp. If that continues in the regular season, Hufanga's not getting paid because there's zero reason to pay him at that point.
Justin Simmons is an all-pro safety, and he doesn't have a team.
Yeah.
He still doesn't. The Niners just signed a safety. It wasn't him. So, yeah, or maybe they can get Aiyuk back on a cheaper deal because the safety market is so depressed. I don't know. We'll have to see. And I think they're going to choose Lenore or Ward. I don't think they're going to do both. And they assume they'll probably do Lenore just because he's younger. Even though
I think it will be a case of they will sign Lenore as long as he's not like crazy, like wanting top of the market. If he goes out and has a Pro Bowl or all pro season this year, he might be coming into the market saying, I want 25+ million a year. And if that's the case, then they go, okay, Ward, you're really good. You're aging. Here's 15 million a year where you're getting, we can guarantee a good bit of it. And we can give you 3 more years at that pay rate.
I wouldn't be shocked. And I have no knowledge of this at all. This is just me speculating. I wouldn't be shocked if the Niners went to Lenore with a contract offer already. And he and his team were like, you know what? Let's just play this out and see what, because you're right. If he has a big year, he's going to be in line for a massive, massive payday. Dale says, can Pearsall make it 3 weeks without getting hurt? Yeah, but we're hearing about him being hurt now, but this could be just like bumps and bruises during the regular season that happen to every player that we don't even know about. He's held out of camp now because it's August and there's no reason to do it. But like, how serious are any of these injuries? I don't know. Sour Death 824 says Steelers wanted Aiyuk since the Niners played them. BA waited until the market rose because he rejected the first offer. Khan wants Brandon Aiyuk on a discount. Omar Khan, the Steelers GM. Niners tell BA and Khan, get the hell out of here, and Kyle needs to stop being a hole. The Kyle part of it, I mean, if you look at the Mike Silver article, I'll throw it up on the screen. Mike Silver says the head coach is bothered by Aiyuk's behavior, from the receiver's conspicuous bro hugs to his perceived brooding and willing to move on. Aiyuk's trade request rankled high-level members of the organization, Kyle, as sometimes happens. And his hold-in, it turns out, cranked up the pressure another notch. If all that's true about Kyle, then he's being a child and he needs to put on his big boy pants immediately.
And needs to be told. So,
right.
Like, hopefully Lynch has the ability to do that. And if not, then Jed York needs to step in and say, no, we're not going to not sign somebody because you're personally wanting to be offended about something that others have already done. Like you
Right.
don't get to be a hypocrite here when it comes to contract negotiations. That's just not how to run a team. I'll say this: if that is what's happening, boy, if I was a player in the locker room, I would really struggle with that. And if I was somebody that had the sway, like a Kittle or Fred Warner, I would be telling Kyle Shanahan. Now, granted, I am somebody that probably is too willingly too willing to speak up to my superiors, but I would be telling him, "Hey, we need that guy. Get out of your own head. Take a long look in the mirror and then come to us when you want to be an adult." You know what I mean? Like don't affect my ability to win a Super Bowl because you want to be immature.
Right. And like Debo held out, but somehow that was better because he wasn't there. And
He
so,
requested a trade.
yeah, the whole thing is asinine. If that's really true, which I have no reason to doubt, by the way, because Mike Silver is very close with Kyle Shanahan. So I have no reason to doubt the reporting. But literally, I would love to sit down with Kyle and be like, dude, get over it. Like, what do you stop being a child? Grow up. This is business. This is how business gets done in the NFL. You should not be shocked by this. You've grown up in the NFL your entire life.
Why are you so mad that he's here and being in the team meetings and not practicing over, say, Trent Williams, who's not showing up at all, or Nick Bosa last year, who didn't show up at all? You know what I mean? Like, isn't it better that he's here and willing to meet you halfway?
The article says it's easier for Kyle to compartmentalize the business aspect if the guy is not there.
That's your own mental weakness.
I mean, it doesn't seem to make any sense. Plus, like, if you don't want Brandon Aiyuk on the field to do bro hugs, then don't let him go out on the field. Like, what are we doing here? It's a lot of this is in your control, Kyle. So it was really weird to me. David Sir, thank you for the super chat. If winning the Super Bowl this year is the goal, Kyle needs to suck it up, give Aiyuk and Trent their desired numbers for a year or two, go win the chip, and then revisit the issue. Winning cures a lot of things. Well, that's a question that I would love to have somebody to have asked Kyle this week. Hey, Kyle, we keep hearing about how you're all in for a Super Bowl. Is this how a team that's all in for the Super Bowl acts, quibbling over a few $1 million for a wide receiver? Is that really how a team that's all in conducts business?
Yeah. I would also like somebody to ask him point blank, hey, these Aiyuk negotiations have dragged on. How involved are you? Are you have you sat in the room and directly negotiated with his agent, or do you not sit in those meetings at all?
Yeah, and if not, we know you got involved in the Trent Williams deal because he told us. So if you haven't, why haven't you?
And can we just say, because nobody's really, like, that I've seen at least, put that in a little bow and connected them. Last time Trent Williams wanted a new contract, as you mentioned, Kyle Shanahan had to get involved because he was about to sign with Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Now Trent Williams wants a new contract, and he's having to hold out through what's looking like the entirety of training camp. Like, why do you have a hard time paying a Hall of Fame, has been the best in his position for like 5 years running now? Like, what's so difficult here? You're doing this to him twice. And if I'm in Trent Williams' shoes, I'm going, I literally couldn't do any more. I couldn't be any better than I am. And I'm having to now fight twice to get paid. You know, that's why I worry that if Aiyuk doesn't end up getting traded and they don't get a clear-cut starting caliber wide receiver in the trade to where clearly they're worse now, I worry Trent Williams goes, well, F it then. I'll retire.
And he just might. I mean, I wouldn't blame him one way or the other. Obviously, he would love a Super Bowl, but like, he's going to the Hall of Fame. Book it. So whatever. Bazzyman says, what exactly does Kyle have to do with contract negotiations? Y'all hate on Kyle over everything. What do you mean? What does he have to do with contract negotiations? He has final say on the roster. Trent Williams literally said he had to call Kyle to get his last deal done with the team. Kyle's intimately involved in contract negotiations. Like, what are we doing here? Do you not know how it works?
There's an easy way to sum it up. Kyle is as involved in contract negotiations as he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
He can be calling the shots and saying, we will pay this guy this contract. Or he can be, I'm not involved in any of it. Leave me alone.
As Andre says, Kyle has the say on everything. Exactly. The 49ers did not want to draft Joe Williams. Kyle Shanahan banged the table for him. Guess what? They got Joe Williams. Like, Kyle hired John Lynch. Do people forget this? It's Kyle's team. He is the emperor. He is the grand poobah. He is everything except owner. It all goes through Kyle. So you cannot excuse Kyle Shanahan again, especially when we know for a fact he has personally gotten involved in contract negotiations in the past.
If Jed York ever tried to pull a power move on Kyle and say no, Kyle strikes me as the type that would become public. He would make some dig. He would say something not directly like, "Well, I wanted to pay him, but I wasn't allowed to." He would say something like, "Oh, I think he's absolutely deserving of that money that he got from some other team." You know what I mean? He would say something where you're clued into, "Oh, Kyle wanted to pay him," and somebody else, which would only be Jed York, said no.
And Kyle has openly praised Jed York for the opposite many times. He's talked about how grateful he is to be in a position to work for an owner that is willing to spend the money that he has spent. So it's not like he shies away from talking about this. I was seeing a tweet from 95.7 The Game. I guess Herm Edwards was on with them, who of course coached Aiyuk in college, and he said that Aiyuk, quote, absolutely wants to stay with the 49ers. I mean, I don't doubt that Brandon Aiyuk's first choice is to stay with the Niners and get paid, right? Like that's the perfect world choice. The problem was that didn't look like an option for him until now. Maybe, who knows? Chris Waddell says, Cowter just said we only offer 23.5 per and all he wants is 26.5. Is that accurate, or is he just spouting BS as always? Well, let me just remind everybody that Colin Cowherd did say that Aiyuk was going to get a new deal. Keep your eyes open for that. And here we are. So I wouldn't put too much stock in what Colin Cowherd says.
I would say that it's both accurate and he's spouting BS. I would bet that's the starting numbers. And we have seen reported that the Niners offered somewhere around the 23.5. I saw 24, and he wanted 27, which 26.5 rounds to 27. That was reported weeks ago. So I would say that this is accurate, that's probably where they started. They started with the Deebo Samuel contract, which is $23.5 million. And he wanted $26.5 million. And then the market changed. And we've seen that reported. That then Aiyuk raised his number because the market changed. And he absolutely should. Like, why get underpaid compared to your market? If he signed for $27 million right now, every single report would be, that is crazy team friendly. Why did this take so long?
Silver reported 26. So again, I would agree with you. I bet 23.5 was the starting number. But like, if the Niners went to 26 and all Aiyuk wants is 26.5, like, what are we doing here? There's no way the 49ers would not throw in the extra. They're not drawing the line at $500,000. Steve-O says most of the super chats don't have an avatar. Is this stats using his team from Gold Standard seems shady? Do you think I have money to give myself fake super chats, Steve-O?
Well, let's be fully transparent here. If he was using Gold Standard money to do super chats, that would be him giving me money.
That's true, because 11 gets all the super chat money. So
yeah, I don't see stats offering me money anytime soon.
Kenny says Diana Rossini said they offered 26 to 27. I mean, I think the Amon-Ra deal was the big one for him. He was like, well, I'm not taking less than that guy got. And by the way,
I wouldn't be shocked if there's been a little bit of a change where he wanted 30, but he's willing to come down to Amon-Ra, which is 26.25 or 28.25, sorry. And the Niners came up to 26 to 27, and they're unwilling to go past that. And so you're stuck where Aiyuk wants 30, but he's willing to drop to 28 to 28.5. And the Niners came up to 27, but are unwilling to go the extra. So you have both sides where they've already compromised some, but they're still not in the right spot. And so both have dug in.
And maybe they need to get the shovels again and keep digging or figure it out, because this is infuriating. We're all losing our minds over here. Daza 0187 super YouTube channel member. Shout out to all our YouTube channel members. If you want to become one, it's less than $3 a month. Please do it. Support the channel. It'd be a great help to me. You get priority comment response, custom emojis, membership badges, all that stuff. Daza says BA wants to stay with the Niners. He just wants to be treated like the number one wide receiver he is and shown respect. In the Netflix show, look at how Campbell treats and talks about Amon-Ra. BA also wants the Amon-Ra deal. I think he would like more targets, but I think if he was getting paid what he wanted and the Niners were competing for Super Bowls, I think he'd be okay with that. I think the target thing is like, it's like heated seats in a car. You want it, but if you have to give something up, that's the first thing you're willing to give up.
Depending on where you live, for starters.
True.
In North Dakota, heated seats and a heating steering wheel became things that I said, as long as I live here, I'm never giving those up.
Yeah. Those heated seats are so nice. It's
a heated steering wheel. I would have never spent the money on, but I bought a truck and it just happened to come with it. Like I would not have spotted an extra dime on it. But the moment I had it and winter hit in North Dakota, I told my wife, I don't see myself ever owning a vehicle again in North Dakota without the heated steering wheel. And she herself, the few times she drove it, was like, okay, this is like so much nicer than I ever thought. You don't have to have your hand frozen while trying to drive.
Yeah, like you don't need gloves when you're just trying to drive your car. And look, I'm in Connecticut. We get cold weather here, but we don't get North Dakota cold. So if I would like it here, I can only imagine what it's like there. Chris Waddell says, I've been doing Super Chat for 2 years to be involved in this show. It's just unfortunately missed the lives mostly. Need more night shows East Coast. Yeah, maybe I'll do some more YouTube night shows this year.
Quit being lazy. Jeez.
So many shows. Here's the thing. Like, I know that other people do night shows. I do really during the season, I do like 6 shows a week.
Yeah.
I don't want to like do extra shows. Like, what else am I going to talk about? I'm already doing 6 shows a week.
Well, you also do 49ers and 5 at night because you have to, because it could change. You could do it at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is where we're at. And at 9, which is only 6 p.m. out on the West Coast, something happens where you're like, well, crap, now I got to scrap that entire thing that I just spent an hour and a half. I don't even know how long it takes you now that you've been doing it long enough. You probably have a pretty good groove on it. But like, that's the last thing you do before you go to bed, is it not? Because it can change if you don't.
Oh, man, there are a couple of times when it has changed and I let out an audible F-bomb as soon as because I'll finish. Usually what I do is like I'll finish and that'll be the last thing I do at night. And then I try to come up and play video games just for like a half hour just to kind of clear my head and relax a little. And I'll be playing that game and all of a sudden my phone will go bloop and I'll look over and I'll just go, oh, son of a.
That was a B bomb, not an F bomb.
Right now. I still bleeped it though.
I didn't even realize that. Yeah, you bleeped it live. That does not connect to me that, oh, he just bleeps that live. Let's talk. I know we've been on 52 minutes. We were going to have a show that was some Aiyuk. So let's talk about the defense.
Okay.
We both had things about the defense that we wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about D. Winters showing up in the training camp. And we've already stated this with other players. It's just training camp. So we'll see. The preseason will show us some. And obviously in the regular season, we'll really know. But my thought was, if D. Winters is the real deal, if he's like what Greenlaw was when he was young, which, I mean, you remember Greenlaw when he was first becoming the main second guy to Fred Warner, he was an athletic freak, obviously, super fast, which D. Winters is. He has similar speed. But his play recognition, especially on run plays, was horrible. He was constantly filling the wrong hole where it's like, oh, I got to pick here or here. I'm going here. Oh, the running back went 3 feet to my left. He was doing that constantly. If he could even be at that level, though, where he's just an athletic freak and can get all over the place, my question is, does that not affect Greenlaw in a huge way? Because Greenlaw's coming back from an injury that takes usually a year playing on it to be truly back when you need the true athleticism of it. So if I'm the Niners and I got D. Winters showing out, I don't necessarily reinsert Greenlaw when he gets healthy. If he's not able to be the same athletic freak, I say, well, we'll rotate you in so that you get some experience there. But it's very possible that if D. Winters has like a phenomenal first, 2, 3, 4 games, and then Greenlaw's ready, but he's not going to be his normal freak self, that he doesn't have a job.
Well, that's the best case scenario, is you don't put Greenlaw in until he can return to performance, even if that's at the end of but that all depends on how good D. Winters can actually be. And you're right. Like, all this is training camp, but I've noticed, I feel like whether it's D. Winters or Malik Mustafa or Diamador Lenore. I feel like we're getting really good reports. Javon Hargrave, we're getting so many good reports about defensive players on this team, like every single day. What if this defense is just going to kick the hell out of people this year? Like maybe they're going to be way better than we think.
I mean, I don't see how they can be worse than last year. I know they ended up being ranked pretty well, but I think they were held back quite a bit by the scheme. We know, like, what happened early in the year. They had to force the coach down from the box. You know what I mean? Then they were trying to change schemes because they didn't like his coverages, right? You had players like Fred Warner speaking out about the coverages and that he didn't feel like the defensive line was matching the coverages and that the two of them were playing like basically two different games. So I feel like the defense never hit its stride last year. So if they can have decent coaching this year, then we're going to see a defense that could be as dominant as the offense was last year when they led the league in touchdowns.
Which I think it's likely the offense regresses a little bit. We've talked about how I don't think Brock statistically is going to have the same type of year that he had, especially if Aiyuk is gone. But even if Aiyuk is there, I just think that he was really good statistically last year. So I think they might regress a little bit, but there's room for the defense to grow. If you want to talk regression, you could argue the defense may regress to being better, positive regression for the defense. They got a lot of young players. The corners in the secondary, I think you could argue this is the best Shanahan secondary ever, which
it's arguable it's the best defensive line as well.
You mean starter wise?
Yes. I mean, they have pretty good depth there. They got 5 guys, 6 guys they can rotate. But and then you even saw, I think it was Bosa himself said that he hinted at the start of training camp, said that this might be the most talent we've had on the defensive line.
And Bosa was asked about potentially dropping into coverage because I guess they're doing some 3-4 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He claims he likes it. I don't know how much I believe that because he had said previously like he didn't like a 3-4 defense, that he wanted to never be dropping and always wanted to rush the passer. But if you can just have that in there every once in a while, just as a wrench that the other team has to think about, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, but the defense does have one potential Achilles heel.
And that is?
If D. Winters is not able to step in for Greenlaw and Greenlaw is not able to make it back and be his normal self, they have a huge weakness. We saw that in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, they lost 100% because the replacement for Greenlaw got picked on left and right. Yeah, he got cooked over and over again. So if they don't have a good replacement and Greenlaw's either not ready till like December, which is what some of the reports are, that he won't be truly fully ready until December, then they have a major problem. I wouldn't be shocked if in that scenario they start trying to do a lot of disguises and things like that so that you don't know if that player is going to be coming on a rush or not. And especially like if you go 3-4, you can have the flexibility with the linebackers. You don't know which one's blitzing and which ones are dropping back into coverage. Right. So that gives you a little flexibility there.
If you don't have the Jimmies and the Joes, try and beat them with the X's and the O's.
Pretty much, yeah. But they could have. It was a little bit of a pun. Achilles heel, Greenlaw coming back from Achilles heel. Like the Achilles heel might be Greenlaw's Achilles heel.
True. And who knows how he's coming back. I think we got a long time before we're going to see him back. I hope that Hufanga can make it back. Matt Barrows had a thing the other day in The Athletic where he just kind of like slipped it in. But he said, like, if Hufanga's ready to go week 1, he and Jair Brown will be the starting safeties, which I would be fascinated to see because they both displayed some playmaking ability. Right. They don't have speed. So you do worry about them from that standpoint. I think coverage is like just straight up like saying you're responsible for this half of the field or that half of the field. Like that maybe is a little scary, but I do think they both provide a lot of flexibility with different things you could do with them and where you could line them up, to start the play. So I hope that he can come back because I would love to see those two back there.
I mean, you could have some ability there, like if it's an obvious passing down and D. Winters is not the real deal. All right, move Hufanga down to that linebacker because he's going to be in coverage anyways. They're not going to run on 3rd and 15. So just have him line up at linebacker, but he's going to cover a tight end.
Vice says, I wonder if Purdy's progression will make up the difference of not having Brandon Aiyuk. He certainly made the O-line look better than it was last year. That's another thing. Dominic Pooney's another guy. Holy crap. Every day we get good reports about him.
Mhm.
That would certainly help Brock Purdy because he was under pressure a ton last season. I just think that, first of all, Christian McCaffrey is not going to have 21 touchdowns again. That was insane. So I don't think CMC is going to be as good. Now, does that mean that Brock Purdy gets more? Maybe, but I just think statistically, Brock will have a worse season in 2024 than he did in 2023. But that doesn't mean he can't be a better player. And I think that's what I'm looking for this year.
Yeah, statistics don't always equal the actual ability of the player. But I will say, like, I think the offense will still be really, really good even without Brandon Aiyuk, even if they don't get a player returning. The problem is that's because they can beat up on the bad defenses. And when they play a defense that is actually capable, has the fast enough linebackers required to limit Debo and McCaffrey, you are going to have problems. And that's where I'm at. Like, yeah, they could still be statistically a top 5 offense even without Aiyuk. But when you get to the playoffs, you're going to face at least one team, and usually 2 or 3 in a row, that are capable of stopping an offense if they are limited and not able to take the top off. And that's what the offense will be if they don't have Aiyuk and they don't get a replacement for him when they do trade him.
Cam Inman tweeted, Dominic Pooney is going to play extended time in the preseason opener at the Titans, according to Chris Forrester. Hooray. I've never been this excited to see a guard in my life. It would be such a boost to this offensive line to just have a guy that if it's 3rd and 10 is not going to give up immediate freaking pressure, which I felt like happened all the time last year on third, like must pass obvious situations. Brock was always under pressure. He could never just sit there and go through his reads.
Yeah, the right side of the offensive line pass blocking was one of the worst in the league last year. Talking just right side, because Trent Williams elevates it quite a bit when you go to the actual overall offensive line. But McKivitz was really bad in pass pro, and Burford was really bad in pass pro. Feliciano was actually like league average, which is why you started to see him quite a bit towards the end of the year.
I don't want a rotation at right guard. Like Chris Forrester talked about the other day. He was like, it's not ideal to do that. Like, that's a weird thing that the Niners and some other teams have done. If you've got good guys, you don't need a rotation. And hopefully Pooney could be one of those guys. That would be a major, major boost, especially to get that guy in the 3rd round. Also, if he's a good player, you've got a really cheap player for, 3 years, 4 years, maybe 3, because you're going to have to pay him. But still, that would be a boost. The Niners need those guys. As Purdy gets more expensive and these other contracts happen, you need guys that are going to outplay their contracts. Those are the young guys. So that would be a boost. Why did you throw this comment up here?
Because I think it's a really good point. Lee Ving says, one Debo injury, where's the wide receiver depth without BA? Yeah, that's one of the key things. Like, what is Debo known for? He gets injured. So if you trade BA and you don't get a McLaurin, a Cooper, a Pickens, somebody that can be a good wide receiver back, when Debo gets hurt, the offense becomes a standstill because Jennings is not going to be able to carry an offense at all at wide receiver. He's a good 3rd wide receiver, and that's it. He's not a good 2. If he's your 2, I would be worried about your wide receiver core. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're one injury to Debo away from your offense becoming a major problem for you.
See, the answer to that, I would say, is if Debo goes down, Kittle is your number 1. He's the guy that has to carry the passing game.
But they can concentrate on him because everybody knows that's what you're going to do. So you're going to say, all right, well, single cover all these crappy wide receivers are incapable of getting open past 10 yards, and we'll make sure we have a safety and a linebacker on Kittle so that they have nothing.
Well, that's part of the reason they drafted Pearsall, right?
That's the key factor here.
Yeah. Are hoping that he will be that guy. So then if it's Kittle 1, Pearsall 2, or Jennings 2, interchange those guys wherever you want. You still have Christian McCaffrey that you could move to the slot. I would say you could use Kyle Juszczyk as like a second tight end. Like there's too many good players on this team to be able to say, well, if Debo goes down, there's no hope for the offense. Like, no, I'm sorry. You can't have it both ways. You can't say the 49ers are full of all these playmakers and then say, well, if one of those guys goes down, then they have nothing on offense. They should still be able to move the ball offensively, even if Debo's not there.
If you can't pass the ball, you're not going to be able to move the ball. And if you lose both those wide receivers, meaning BA is traded and Debo is injured, you don't have wide receivers. Obviously, Pearsall is a big swing here. If Pearsall's, I would say this: if Pearsall was the real deal, if we knew for sure he was the real deal, and that was something we knew at this point, I wouldn't really have that big of a problem trading BA. I would still prefer not to, but I wouldn't have a big problem with it because the offense isn't going to lose anything because Pearsall is able to make up that. But that's nobody knows. And at this point, the Niners don't even know because he's been injured so much. They haven't been able to get a look at him.
Do you think that, assuming Pearsall can actually play, which hopefully he can, and I mean, be healthy enough to play, do you think they can get 748 yards, 5 touchdowns from Ricky Pearsall this year? And the reason I say that specifically is because that's what Brandon Aiyuk did as a rookie. 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. Do you think that's unrealistic for Ricky Pearsall?
Is BA on the team or no?
Let's say no. Because
I would say it's realistic then. If BA is on this team, there's not going to be enough opportunity.
Right.
If he's gone, there absolutely is an opportunity because Jennings is not going to replace Brandon Aiyuk. He cannot play that role. He cannot get open consistently on the intermediate and deep routes, which is what Aiyuk does. Pearsall would have to fill that role. So at that point, yeah, Pearsall has a chance to do that.
And I'd be happy with that. If you told me right now that's what they got out of Ricky Pearsall in year 1, I'd be like, yep. I don't know how you could not, to be honest.
Yeah. The Justin Jeffersons are unicorns. You know?
Right.
Most wide receivers take a year or two break out.
Genius Hound says, I'm faster than Jennings. That's mean, but also kind of funny. We've been getting good.
He ran like a 4.78 or something like that. That's why he was a 7th round pick.
Hey, he's been a good player for this team. Like 7th round.
He has been extremely valuable.
Yes. And Debo said, and I thought this was true, Debo said yesterday, like, Jennings is our most consistent receiver. The problem is there's a ceiling there in terms of what he can do for you. But I agree. He is the most consistent. Like, you know what you're getting from Juwan Jennings. It's like that old line with the fullbacks, right? If you need 2 yards, I'll get you 3. If you need 4 yards, I'll get you 3. That's what Juwan Jennings is.
I mean, he had 19 catches last year. 19. I think people are inflating what he is because of what he did in the playoffs and specifically the Super Bowl.
And so many of his catches are big because they're on 3rd down.
Yes, they are, but I actually just pushed back on somebody on Twitter for it. I went and looked it up. Guess who had a higher percentage of their catches go for first downs? Brandon Aiyuk. Yeah. Guess who had, and that's on 3rd down specifically. Sorry. So I'm not talking like 1st and 2nd down Aiyuk stats inflating it. On 3rd down, Brandon Aiyuk had a higher rate of getting a first down on his catches than Jennings did.
I mean, a third of his catches, Aiyuk's catches, went for first down or went for 20 plus yards.
Yeah, he had 17.9 yards per reception. It's insane.
And he would have been number 1 if they didn't start Sam freaking Darnold in week 18, which he talked about when he went on with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco. He specifically mentioned how ticked he was that he didn't end up winning that category because of that final game. So it's just another reason to hate Sam Darnold is what I'm saying.
We won't hate Sam Darnold this year because, fingers crossed, we get to play against him.
Yeah. Oh God, please let that be a thing. Please let the 49ers play against Sam Darnold this year. God. Oh, well, from your lips to God's ears. All right. We're still in the holding pattern. Brandon Aiyuk, still a 49er. If something happens, we'll hop on a live show and we'll talk about it. But every day that goes by where he is not traded, I feel like is a good day for the 49ers and their future with Brandon Aiyuk. We will see. Remember, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network wherever you get your audio podcast. Please leave us a 5-star rating and a review. It really does wonders with us for the algorithm. We do have to play those games. So if you could do that, you want to help the show, that would be a massive, massive boon. Levin, what do you got going on the rest of the day?
Today, yard work. But I got my fun stuff done this morning. Did mini golf and got lunch with the kid and wife.
Did you play your dynasty game so I could advance the week?
I've not had a chance. I will probably do that tonight. Oh, if you think it's bad now, when I go to nights, there is no video games. And I go to nights on Friday because the time I play video games is after the kid goes to bed. So
somebody just knocked off the #1 team in the nation. That's all I'm saying. I don't know who it was. Somebody did. Might have been me. Might have been the Marshall Thundering Herd. Okay. We knocked off Ohio State in Ohio State, by the way. 21-20 overtime thriller.
I'm just annoyed with my last game. I mean, I was texting you. I scored 56 points and lost.
I don't know how you're scoring 56 points and losing, but
I told you the game has a cheat code, and the cheat code is if you have a wide receiver with maxed out speed, you send him deep every route, and the defense has one way of playing against that actually stops it. Even if the DB is 10 yards off of him, he will get beat. The only way they stop it is they have to have a safety standing 20 plus yards deep, and the safety has to turn and run to stop that. And they only do that every so often. Like their AI for the defensive DBs is moronic. Like they literally go, hey, this guy has 500 yards against us because he keeps beating us on a go route, but I'm still going to have the safety cheat down. And like there's times when the safety's deep and I snap the ball and the safety sprints forward to get to him, and then he goes by him.
Like, you think we're kidding? And I know it's video game talk, whatever, but Levin had over 1,000 yards with this one receiver in one game. Like, I went to look up the statistics because I thought he was kidding. And I was like, he had 1,115 yards, something like that, with 15 touchdowns in one game. I was like, holy hell.
He had 500 in the second game, and it was in a losing effort.
Man. And now you and I are competing against each other for recruits, too. Did you notice that?
I did notice there were a couple there that was Marshall, and I was like, screw that guy.
College Football 25 is the game, if you're wondering. I don't know how recruiting works. I don't get it. I'm totally just winging it. Like, I have no idea if I'm doing the right thing.
How much did you play the old college ones?
A lot, but I feel like the recruiting is different.
It's different, but same principles. Like, I played the original a ton, and I will say, like, I played a lot of dynasties with like my brother and our friends, as well as in college I played a lot with my college roommate. And when you play an online dynasty like with other user teams, they do have it built in flat out that you will get cheated. And that's what I experienced in the last game. I was texting you like, I had a whole bunch of throws. My guy's been perfectly accurate, right? Oh, but now this game, suddenly he's going to miss a guy, and not just miss him, he's going to miss him by 10 yards so that it gets intercepted. Like, what is going on? You're just cheating me.
Andre says, do you have it on rookie mode? No, it's on All-American, which is the second toughest skill level that there is. So, I don't know. But anyway, you need to play in advance because I want to advance because now I'm rolling. I want to reap the benefits of knocking off the #1 team in the land, baby. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.